It does not scream. It smiles. It does not burn cities. It holds your hand, nods in agreement, and infects you without a sound. Stupidity, real, weaponized stupidity, is not just the absence of intelligence. It's a virus of the mind. It turns clarity into confusion, thought into reflex, awareness into obedience. It disguises itself as confidence, as certainty, as truth. You won't recognize it at first, because it does not live in the uneducated. It thrives in professors, in doctors, in leaders, in the people we trust most. People who once questioned everything, but now parrot slogans they barely understand. This is not a joke, and it is not new. A mind can be alive one moment and colonize the next. Imagine this. A brilliant scientist starts defending ideas they once debunked. A kind teacher begins preaching division. A loving parent shares lies that could hurt their own children. These are not evil people. They are infected. And the worst part, they don't know it. Because stupidity, real stupidity, does not look stupid. It looks normal. It smiles. It says all the right things. And when enough minds surrender, the world begins to rot from within. Not with fire, but with comfort. But here's where it gets terrifying. This is not happening to them. It's happening to us, to you, to me, right now. And what if the greatest threat to humanity is not war, is not hatred, but ordinary people who have stopped thinking? One man saw it coming. He watched his society transform, not through violence, but through intellectual decay. From his prison cell, awaiting execution, he wrote a warning so disturbing it was almost forgotten. Until now. So the real question is, what if you are already infected? It does not break the door down. It slips through the cracks. You don't hear it coming because it does not come all at once. It creeps in like fog, soft, silent, unassuming, until everything inside you feels familiar, but none of it is yours anymore. Imagine this. A man wakes up in his apartment, same place, same routine. He brushes his teeth, checks the news, scrolls through updates. But something's off, not loud, not obvious, just off. The thoughts in his head, they feel slightly scripted. The opinions he shares, not questioned, just repeated. He nods in conversations, but not because he agrees. He doesn't know why he agrees. He assumes he still thinks for himself. But thinking has long been outsourced, drip by drip, to the crowd. This is the invisible takeover. No brainwashing, no violence. Just subtle pressure. 1,000 tiny harmless compromises stacked on top of each other, until a person's thoughts no longer belong to them. How does it start? Not with stupidity, but with fear. Fear of standing out. Fear of seeming difficult. Fear of being wrong. And so we conform, not because we believe, but because we want to belong. We repeat slogans, not because we understand them, but because they're safe. We share outrage, not because we feel it, but because it's expected. We believe things because they are repeated, not because they are true. Over time, the mind adapts. The brain, designed for survival, begins to conserve energy. Why wrestle with complexity when certainty is handed to you? And this is where stupidity takes root. Not as idiocy, not as ignorance, but as emotional surrender. We think of stupidity as a failure of intellect. But what if it's something worse? A failure of will, a refusal to wrestle, a silent agreement to never question again. This is not stupidity as a lack of intelligence. This is functional stupidity. High IQ obedience, polite insanity. It's the teacher who knows better, but won't speak up. It's the executive who senses something's wrong, but signs anyway. It's the citizen who feels the dissonance, but scrolls past. They don't feel stupid, they feel safe. And that's how the infection spreads. Because stupidity is not loud, it does not debate, it nods, it smiles, it complies, until the whole room is infected, and no one remembers what thinking felt like. He was not a theorist in a university. He was a man awaiting execution in a Nazi prison. No podium, no classroom, just concrete walls, cold silence, and time. Time to watch the collapse of everything he once believed in. The power of reason, the strength of faith, the dignity of man. This is where Bonhoeffer's war began. Born into an elite German family, Dietrich Bonhoeffer had every reason to believe in the power of education. His father was a psychiatrist. His siblings were scientists, artists, thinkers. He was surrounded by intellect and convinced that reason, debate, and dialogue were enough to hold society together. But then came the collapse. Germany, a nation of poets, philosophers, theologians, handed itself to a maniac. And what shocked Bonhoeffer the most wasn't the evil, it was the compliance. He watched as bishops blessed hate, as scholars rationalized murder, as neighbors turned into informants, not because they were evil, but because they stopped thinking. He joined the resistance. He spoke out. He plotted against Hitler, and for that, he was imprisoned. But it was not the physical bars that haunted him most. It was what he saw in the minds of the people, something darker than fear, something deeper than ignorance, a sickness, a spiritual surrender masquerading as common sense, an infection of the soul. In his letters from prison, Bonhoeffer wrote words that would shake future generations. Against stupidity, we are defenseless. Not evil, stupidity. Because evil knows it's wrong, evil hides, lies, disguises itself. But stupidity, it believes, it trusts, it obeys, not because it must, but because it has surrendered the ability to not. Bonhoeffer was not afraid of loud hatred. He was afraid of silent agreement. He saw that the truly dangerous person is not the one who hates you. It's the one who no longer thinks. In that prison, stripped of his freedom, he saw the deepest kind of bondage, mental captivity, spiritual laziness, the death of thought. And that's why he wrote, not as a philosopher, but as a witness, a prophet screaming into the void, hoping someone someday would listen. He did not die for politics. He died for truth, for the right to think, to question, to refuse. And now his warning is more urgent than ever, because stupidity is not just an old enemy, it's evolving. It does not announce itself. There's no fever, no rash, no scream, just a quiet shift, so small you don't notice it until you are gone. This is how it starts. This is what it looks like when your mind is no longer yours. These are the 5 signs of a mind taken over. The first symptom is not rage, it's revulsion, a deep unconscious discomfort with complexity. You will feel it when someone says, "It's not that simple," and your blood heats with impatience. You will hear a counterpoint, and instead of curiosity, you feel contempt. You no longer want to understand, you want to win. Infected minds cannot tolerate gray. They need heroes or villains, good or evil, right or wrong, nothing in between. Nuance is treated like betrayal, because nuance demands effort, and effort is the first thing the virus kills. Stupidity is not about low intelligence, it's about fragility. The infected mind clings to its beliefs like a child to a blanket, not because they are true, but because without them, there's nothing left. You avoid conversations that challenge you. You feel personally attacked when someone presents evidence. You don't examine, you defend. Because deep down, the virus has rewritten one simple truth. If I'm wrong, I'm worthless. And that lie is what keeps you infected. It starts subtly. You post a take. It gets likes. Feels good. You post a more extreme version. More likes. Feels better. Eventually, you're no longer thinking. You're reacting to the applause. Your opinions, optimized for approval. Your morality, crowdsourced. Your voice, algorithmic echo. You stop asking, "Is this true?" You start asking, "Will they like it?" And once that switch flips, you're no longer thinking at all. You're performing. You repeat things not because you understand them, but because they're familiar. Catchphrases, headlines, trending terms. Your brain becomes a hall of mirrors, bouncing other people's thoughts back and forth. You hear your own voice, but it's hollow. Ask someone under this spell, "What does that actually mean?" And watch the panic rise behind their eyes. The virus thrives here, where language replaces meaning and repetition replaces reflection. This is the final symptom, the terminal stage, where a person's mind becomes a fortress, sealed shut by the illusion of truth. They no longer ask questions. They don't need to. They already know. They mock dissent, demonize doubt, crucify curiosity. And if you challenge them, They won't debate you. They will label you. Once the virus reaches this stage, dialogue is impossible. Only deprogramming remains, because the most dangerous person is not the one who's unsure. It's the one who's certain, without ever thinking. And now the question turns inward. Which of these signs have you seen? Not in others, but in yourself. Because the virus does not just spread through lies. It spreads through comfort. And comfort is how the infection hides. Evil knows it's evil. It sneaks, it lies, it hides in shadows. Evil is deliberate, it calculates, it manipulates. Even the most monstrous acts are done with some awareness that they are wrong. But stupidity? Stupidity doesn't hide. It smiles. It shows up on time. It wears a badge. It follows the rules. It thinks it's doing the right thing. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Evil can be resisted because evil creates tension, a moral reflex, a gut instinct, an inner recoil. But stupidity? Stupidity disarms you. It doesn't shout. It nods. It doesn't burn down buildings. It fills out forms. It's the police officer just doing his job. It's the bureaucrat stamping a death order without reading it. It's the citizen who applauds injustice, not out of hate, but out of blindness. Bonhoeffer understood this. He said, "Evil carries within itself the seed of its own destruction, but against stupidity, we are defenseless." You can expose evil with truth. You can provoke guilt, create resistance. But stupidity? It shrugs. It doesn't understand. And worse, it doesn't want to understand. It will destroy everything around it while believing it's saving the world. It will repeat the lie, louder, prouder, the more evidence you provide. And if you try to wake it up, it will laugh at you. Because stupidity has no conscience. Not because it's cold, but because it's asleep. This is why stupid people can be kind, generous, friendly, even loving, and still terrifying. Because the virus has taken the wheel, and kindness in the hands of stupidity can cause more destruction than cruelty ever could. This isn't an insult. This is a warning. Evil is a threat we can see. But stupidity? Stupidity walks beside you. It eats with you. It becomes you. The moment you stop thinking. And by the time you realize it, it's already smiling through your face. Once upon a time, stupidity spread slowly. One person, one group, one generation at a time. But now, it spreads at the speed of a scroll. Stupidity has evolved. It's no longer a human weakness. It's a system, designed, refined, and scaled by machines. Welcome to the age of algorithmic ignorance. The new virus doesn't need propaganda ministers or public executions. It has engagement metrics. It doesn't suppress ideas. It overwhelms them. It floods your feed with what you already agree with, louder, faster, angrier, until all that remains is your own reflection, screaming back at you. You think you're being informed, you're being conditioned, to feel instead of think, to react instead of reflect, to obey your emotions instead of challenge your assumptions. And here's the terrifying truth. It works. Social media platforms don't need to lie to you. They just need to make truth less convenient than fiction. Because stupidity doesn't require deception. It only needs distraction. Think of it like this. You click a video that makes you angry. You watch until the end. The algorithm smiles. It shows you 10 more just like it. It doesn't care if the information is true. It cares that you didn't stop watching. And so, the virus spreads, not with malice, but with math. The platforms are optimized for addiction, not accuracy. And what gets the most clicks? Certainty, outrage, simplicity. The perfect breeding ground for stupidity. And the more time you spend inside that echo chamber, the more you lose your capacity to question what's outside it. This is the modern mutation. Stupidity. That doesn't look like stupidity. It looks like activism. It looks like confidence. It looks like you being right all the time. But it's not you thinking, it's a machine thinking for you, using your own biases as fuel. Even worse, these systems learn faster than we do. They adapt. They know your triggers. They know what keeps you scrolling, sharing, shouting, all while thinking you're informed. But you're not informed. You're fed. Fed what will keep you angry. Fed what will keep you afraid. Fed what will keep you addicted to the comfort of being right. This is no longer stupidity in the traditional sense. This is engineered ignorance, machine-fed, self-reinforcing, psychologically tuned for mass adoption. And it's winning, because the smartest people you know are already infected. Not because they're dumb, but because they stopped paying attention to how they think and started letting machines do it for them. You don't notice the war when it starts, because it does not look like a battle. It feels like confusion, like a fog rolling over your thoughts, software heavy, familiar. It starts with a whisper. Why make it complicated? Just trust the experts. Everyone agrees. And that's how it gets in, not through force, but through comfort. The first casualty is your curiosity. You stop asking why. Then your doubt dies next. You start avoiding uncomfortable questions. Not because you've answered them, but because they make you feel something you'd rather not. This is how the virus spreads. It doesn't attack your intelligence. It attacks your willingness to feel uncertain. Because uncertainty is uncomfortable. Uncertainty requires humility. And the virus feeds on the promise of emotional ease. Why wrestle with the truth when certainty feels better? And so, bit by bit, the voice in your head becomes an echo. Not of thought, but of approval loops. You stop thinking for yourself. You start thinking toward others, toward safety, toward applause, toward tribe. And you don't even know it's happening, because it feels like growth, like confidence, like strength. But it's not strength, it's simulation. A mask of conviction, hiding the absence of reflection. This is where the self-justification mechanism kicks in. Every time a new doubt surfaces, your brain shuts it down with ease. I already looked into that. That source isn't credible. It's just a conspiracy. Everyone else is on board. I must be right. The more doubt you suppress, the more righteous you feel. And righteousness is addictive. It replaces nuance. It replaces nuance with pride. It turns disagreement into offense. It turns differing views into threats. And in that moment, the exact moment you stop listening, stop feeling the tension of doubt, stop questioning your beliefs, your mind becomes theirs. You'll speak in their phrases, repeat their slogans, react with their instincts. You'll still use your voice, but the thoughts won't be yours anymore, because the real war isn't over facts. It's over your relationship to truth itself. Stupidity isn't just misinformation. It's malformed identity. It convinces you that your beliefs are you, so that letting go of them feels like death. And the virus knows this. That's why it doesn't argue. It merges. It becomes you. Until the moment you challenge it, you feel like you're betraying yourself. That's the final stage of infection, when the thought parasite guards itself with your own ego. So the real question is not, are you smart enough to resist? It's, are you brave enough to doubt yourself? Because this war isn't fought in the streets. It's fought in silence, in solitude, in the dark space between the belief and the voice that dares to question it. There comes a moment, quiet, cold, and unannounced, when you realize you were never truly thinking. You were performing, pleasing, nodding. Not because you were stupid, but because the person you feared disappointing was the same one who first taught you what truth meant. Your peers, your tribe, your algorithm. This is the final test. Not everyone takes it. Most will stay in the cage, decorated with memories, guarded by guilt, justified by tradition. But a few, they choose to leave, and they never come back the same. This is your moment. You're not a child anymore. You don't need permission to grow, to doubt, to speak, to leave, to think. You don't need to keep sacrificing yourself on the altar of certainty and comfort, because a truth that demands obedience is not truth. It's control. And that is exactly what Bonhoeffer saw. Not in theory, but in blood. He watched his country collapse not from bombs or bullets, but from the inside, from minds surrendering themselves in exchange for simplicity, belonging, and peace. He did not just write. He did not just warn. He resisted. He questioned. He refused, even when it cost him everything. On April 9th, 1945, just weeks before Germany surrendered, they hung him, a theologian, a rebel, a thinker. His last words, "This is the end. For me, the beginning of life." He did not mean biological life. He meant something else. The life that begins when the mind is no longer chained, when thought becomes sacred again, That life is yours to choose. But make no mistake, thinking is no longer an intellectual act. It's a psychological rebellion, a spiritual defiance. In a world engineered to sedate you, to spoon-feed you pre-approved thoughts, to punish discomfort and reward performance, to make you afraid of your own mind, the simple act of pausing, questioning, and saying, "I don't know," is a revolution. So the question now is no longer theoretical. It's personal. It's urgent. It's yours. Will you guard your own mind, or will you surrender it, smiling, nodding, scrolling, while believing you're still free? If this made you uncomfortable, good. That's where real thinking begins. Not in the safety of agreement, but in the friction of doubt. Bonhoeffer did not die so we could quote him. He died so we could wake up, so we could question not just the world, but ourselves. And if you're still here, it means you're one of the few, the ones who refuse to let their mind be colonized by noise. So, here's what you can do next. Subscribe if you believe thinking is worth defending. Comment with one belief you're willing to question this week, and share this with someone who's not afraid to face the uncomfortable. Because in an age of artificial stupidity, every mind that thinks for itself becomes a threat to the system. Stay sharp, stay awake, and never, never give your mind away for free. This is Psyphos, where minds are not fed, they are forged.